With the frigid winter weather outside, that can only mean that everyone's favorite sport is in full swing. Good old college hockey. That's right, the collegiate season has just over a month left of regular season play, and there has been a plethora of exciting action across all 64 Division I teams. Hello everyone and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Josh Bartosik and I am joined by LiCastro and Owen Cameros to break down one of the most unexpected college hockey seasons to date. So guys, at this point, it's nearly February, and right now the only rankings that matter are those pairwise rankings. The USCHO rankings kind of don't mean that much, but when you look at those pairwise rankings, what's a team that's either surprised or disappointed you this season? And I'll throw that one to you first.
Okay, well, so for my pleasant surprise team, we'll say, I'm going to shout out Michigan State because I think they've been doing great this season. That's really evident. And especially compared to their performance last season, I've seen a big improvement. Their overall record right now is sitting at 16-5-3, so that's great. And they're 10-2-2 in the Big Ten. Awesome stuff. Some may choose to point out that they did face a minor setback lately, losing 7-1 to Michigan. Ouch. However, to that I say, we all have our days, first of all. And second of all, they did come back to win Game 2 of that series 7-5. So I think that proves redemption, and we can move on. Their goal scoring has been strong. They have a lot of 5 and 6 goal wins on their record, and they also have a lot of goal scorers on that team. Their main one right now being Joey Larson, who has 15 on the season right now. And then the last thing I'll say about Michigan State from watching them play in person is that they have a really fast-paced game, which obviously works out great for them because it's intimidating and it's effective because they are quick, but their organization doesn't break down. And then in terms of a disappointment, I have to go with Penn State, but I know we're going to touch on that more later, so I'll keep my mouth shut for now.
Yeah, and then I'll talk about Wisconsin. I mean, what a surprise they've been this season. Last season, they were 13-23-0 in play. Really rough season. They hired Mike Hastings from Minnesota State. He spent 11 years there, got them to a 2022 National Hockey Championship game. And he came on and just, what I'm surprised about is how quickly he's turned the program around and how they've turned it around. They have been incredibly stout defensively. They're giving up the least goals per game out of any team in college hockey by over a goal. That is incredible. I think they're allowing about 1.7 goals per game, which is an incredible mark. That's a mark that not many teams can put up. This year, they're 19-4-1. They're fourth in the PeerWise rankings. They are just really, really stout defensively, and offensively, they have talent. Mike Hastings has turned this program around from a program that had been storied, but kind of had been in a couple of years a struggle, to a program that may very well get into the Frozen Four. And it should be really interesting to see how this team progresses as the season goes along, because they still have some tough games coming up. And they're kind of one of those teams where you could see them sneaking in as a fun team, or you could see them completely crash out. Or the third option, which I think I'm most in favor of, you could see them completely dominate their opponents going in this last month and just go into the Frozen Four as one of the favorites. Because obviously you have BU, BC, which we'll touch on later. Wisconsin, they're a team kind of a sneaky team. Nobody's really sure what they're going to do when it comes to playing teams like BU-BC, but right now, they look like one of the best teams in college hockey.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's just been so dominant in Minnesota, and that Minnesota State head coach, Mike Hastings, brought some Minnesota State talent with him, and that's part of the reason the Badgers have been so good. And for Michigan State, I mean, they came to Pagula Ice Arena and really dominated the way that this team in the Nittany Lions is normally used to playing. They played that style of hockey. They got top 5 draft pick this year, Artem Levchinov on the back end, and a pretty dang good goalie in Trey Augustine. So both of those teams could probably make it into the NCAA tournament. And you mentioned the Frozen Four. We'll move to that now. You know, it's going to be in the state of hockey this year, St. Paul, Minnesota, and we kind of mentioned those pairwise rankings, but Owen, I'll go to you first. What are your 4 teams that, as of now, are your locks to make it to
As
that
much
stage?
as I like Wisconsin, I'm going to go Blue Bloods. I'm going to go BU, BC, Denver, North Dakota. BU and BC are the 2 best teams in college hockey. They're loaded with talent. They have 2 of the best 3 players in college hockey in Macklin Celebrini and Gutierrez. And they're just so talented from the top to the bottom. The offense, the defense, the goaltenders, all of them star players in college hockey. I think the thing with BU and BC is that it's kind of one of those situations where both of them look so good that you almost don't doubt that they're going to be in the national championship game playing each other, and it gets worrying that one of those teams is just going to crash out. I just think that they're well coached and they have enough talent to where even if they drop a couple of games later on in the season, even if they kind of have one of those seasons where you start to look at them and be like, is this still the team that we saw in the first half of the season? I just think they're so good that it's not going to matter, and I think they'll have the talent to pull out games. And then I'm going to go to Denver. Denver, kind of a storied season for them, kind of a season where, maybe people didn't expect them to be as good. They're 6th right now in pairwise rankings. One of those teams where maybe they're the 5th team. They're the team that kind of gets left out. They're the Georgia of college football. Or the Florida State, of college football. That's a better one. But I just think that they're going to win those tough games down the stretch. I think they're a team with skill. They have the most goals scored per game, 5.3, best scoring margin, 2.29. I just like them as a team. And then North Dakota, 16, 6-2, 3rd in pairwise. They're gonna kind of breeze through the rest of the schedule. I like them. I think that they are a team where they offensively are stout, defensively. We'll see if they can fix some of their issues, but they've had a couple of scares. But I just think with them, they have an easier schedule down the stretch, and I like them to just kind of win most of their games and get in as the 3rd seed.
Okay, so Owen, I do agree with you on 2 teams, no surprise, both from my favorite city of Dunkin' Iced Coffee, and that is Boston University and Boston College. I think barring any unforeseen circumstances, it would be silly not to have those 2 in my Frozen Four. And then for my next teams, when I say I have them on lock, I'm picturing more of like a loosely chained bike lock. So let's keep that in mind as I tell you about them. Because number 1, I'm taking Quinnipiac. Reigning national champs, they always end up somewhere towards the top of the rankings. They have a solid record right now. They are coming off 2 losses to Colgate and Cornell, I think. Yeah, I'm right. Colgate and Cornell. However, they do have some likely wins coming up against both Harvard and Yale, so I think that's going to set them back on track. So I'm taking Quinnipiac. And then for my 4th team, for a safer option, I'm going to go with Wisconsin. They're 19-4-1. They're really powerful. They're really consistent. I think that one makes sense. For a more fun option, I want to take Michigan State because I think if they can keep up the energy that they have right now, then they have the potential to crush the rest of their season, tentatively.
Yeah, I mean, look, BU and BC are 2 no-doubters right now, like you said, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And that Beanpot tournament that's coming up in a few weeks is going to be absolutely electric with those 2 teams in it. I think those other teams, Quinnipiac, you mentioned Denver, North Dakota. North Dakota's my 3rd team in right now. I mean, Jackson, Blake, everyone else that's on that team has been phenomenal. My 4th team, I'm going to go with the Maine Black Bears. No one's really talking about them. They have the best jerseys in college hockey, and right now they're playing some really good hockey. The Nadeau brothers are really leading the charge. They're both at top of that team in points and have been great. But we'll move from the state of hockey to right here in Hockey Valley really quickly. It's a struggling Nittany Lions team, like you alluded to earlier, Anna, that is facing an even more struggling Buckeyes team in the annual Wear White game. So what can you tell me about that series and just that game in general?
So, yeah, as someone who's attended every home game, Penn State has been struggling, and Ohio State has somehow been struggling even more. Both teams right now have really mediocre overall records and blatantly poor in conference records. Neither team's defense has been performing super well. Ohio State was non-existent on the penalty kill against Minnesota this past weekend. And Penn State puts up lots of goals, but that doesn't really matter if you're letting just as many hit the back of your net. That being said, in terms of this coming weekend and the Wear White game, I am anticipating that that's going to be very, very exciting for a few reasons. Number 1, classic rivalry matchup. Number 2, the Wear White event creates such an atmosphere in Pagula. It's so electric, it's so loud, it's so fun, so that brings a whole new element to the game. And then number 3, I think that seeing how both of these teams' offense has been performing in comparison to their defense, it actually has the potential to be a high-scoring game, and everyone loves action. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, when Penn State scheduled this as their Wear White game, they wanted an interesting game, a competitive game. Not necessarily sure this is the game that they thought they would get. I don't think Penn State expected themselves to be this low in the standings. And Ohio State, they've struggled mightily this year. So I don't think we expected this game from Penn State and Ohio State to be kind of a bottom-of-the-barrel game. The thing is with it is Penn State struggled, not in the way we thought. They're fine offensively, terrible defensively. Ohio State, even worse. They haven't scored much at all. 2.7 goals per game is never a good clip. You never want to see that. I think this will be a high-scoring game, an interesting game, and I'm really excited to see kind of the atmosphere in the arena, because I just think when Penn State brings their fans into the arena and they really get the atmosphere going, it's just going to be electric.
Yeah, look, the Wear White game in Pagula Ice Arena has been notoriously known as one of the places to go for college hockey for fans, and it should be a good weekend. It could be turning the tables for either one of those teams, and we'll just have to wait and see. Even with the Wear White game stealing the headlines this weekend, several matchups in the college world should be thrillers throughout this remaining month or so of the regular season. Which teams will rise to glory and which will crumble under the pressure down this home stretch? Guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that's going to do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For LiCastro and Owen Cameros, I'm Josh Bartosik. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.